I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and the name I have to use is Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married at Childers, and I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace. And my father's Edward VIII, who never married Wallace Simpson. He was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor. They were still alive in October the 20th of 86 when I came to Roanoke. I was born in 39. Victoria II, Queen Victoria II. My father was forced out with character assassination, and he never married Wallace Simpson. She married a double, an imposter, and there were several. Until today, that's not been corrected. It's the biggest takedown and lie that still survives. Anyway, when all this happened to my dad, when in 37, the Illuminati, Kennedy's, JFK was in on it. His father was appointed U.S. ambassador to England in 36 when my father became king. And for the sole purpose of, my father wouldn't go along with them. He wouldn't take orders from the Freemason Illuminati, or it's the mafia, world mafia, now known as the United Nations, that began its headway when they took out my father and kidnapped me. Papers were drawn that were legal, went through channel, that if my father had an heir, his heir would inherit. And I was born in 39, and I placed pictures up here of his brother, George, the illegal six. The Illuminati Mafia installed him, where he and Roosevelt, President Roosevelt and his family, and George and his wife, Elizabeth's mother, who's a Rothschild, were planning my kidnapping in 1939 at Hyde Park. They were on the porch in the rocking chairs and this, in 1939, having a party. 41 I was kidnapped and brought over here, and this is what I want to get to here. Tomorrow's the new year, be 2019. Nobody has ever been brought before court for the crimes committed against me, against my father and mom, and most of all, I don't guess my children. The horrific crimes done to them. There has been such a mess of lies and attempted murder because of who we are. And the money, and not just ransom money that was brought here to keep me alive, but in the way of treaties, bringing scientists here. How do you think NASA was in Huntsville, and then later Houston, and they even named Cape Canaveral after Kennedy that kidnapped me, JFK. How sick it all is. I wrote about mind control murders starting in 76. I was almost killed again. I wrote about 72 in the Watergate tapes. I was almost killed April Fool Day of 80. Lionel Dempsey, and I'm not going to mention the others at this moment. There were doctors involved in this, and I hesitate a little. My ex-husband, I'm not sure who he was. I really am not. CIA or who, or if he was against me or for me. It would certainly seem he was against me, but anyway, I should never have walked away from it. It was so horrific. And I was dumped in her car, so she was sitting there waiting on me. I had no apartment left then. It had been illegally taken by my ex-husband. In March, I left on the 8th to go to his sister's in Abilene, Texas. She was CPA, her and her husband, and my ex-husband had moved back into my apartment at Laurelwood. I'd moved from Moonraker to Laurelwood, just up the street a couple of blocks in Marietta. I was doing the book when Larry Flint was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was done in patterns, and it was by a program shooter. So this was what I was writing about. You can cure an illness or create it, or you can program people to kill in any manner using a gun, a knife, and it's been so advanced now you can program armies. So The reason I'm making this one, though, and I'll just get to that, there's just one, if she's still alive today, and I think she is. Her name is Jean Dempsey, and I don't know who she's married to now. She was married a couple of times, and I think both of them died, maybe 3 times. She has children that seem to have fared very well. She has always known. I remember Jean coming in right after I was put there, and the real Peggy had been fed to the pigs. That's how they murdered her. The other twin, Carl, had been killed about a month after birth. They were about a year older than me. So they're born out of wedlock. Lina, their mother, murdered him. And then this would be 41 then, that I was kidnapped, and I was born in 39. And they brought me over here. And it's so horrible. I remember, and this is what scared Annie Carter. She was Mrs. Ezra Carter. She was Jean's older sister, and then I've forgotten how many was in that family. Matthew Dempsey was the only son. There was about 8 of the girls, or 7 and 1 boy, and that was Matthew, and he retired from the service. Matthew's the one that came in one night when I was a little screaming. He had joined the army, and I'm not sure if he was in it. I think so at that time. But I remember it being dark, and they fight. It was horrible living. Her father raped her, which is sad. But, I mean, it turned her loose on all of them wanting to shut up about my being kidnapped. They didn't want it known. They covered up the murders. And I remember Matthew coming in. It was dark, and I was in the other room, and they were fighting, and him and his mother and Lina, and him saying, "But you fed her to the pigs." So the one thing that when I absolutely knew about my kidnapping, I look back and I always knew. I was 2 years old. I had memories of it, my father and what happened. And I've put that up here. But the whole point to this is no one in that family's ever paid for it. No one in my Windsor family, like Elizabeth, she's still going strong. So what's the difference in these two? Jean's still alive as far as I know. There's cousins that certainly know. She certainly told them, or their parents told them. They all knew about this when I was growing up. Lina would have faced the death penalty in Alabama, the gas chamber, and they covered it up and helped on it. They knew about feeding Peggy to the pigs. They knew about my real name. So this has all been covered up, plus the crimes that are so horrific done to my sons, Mark and Scott, and me, because of who we are and who my father is, and the terrific crimes done to him and my mom, and a double married Wallace. And today, when you look at all the videos, they use the double video saying he's my father. And absolutely a lie. So the thing I want to get to here is why, because I've called the sheriff. I had a letter from the district attorney a few years ago. Well, it's been quite a few years ago. And the probate judge, who was Proctor, and Richard Proctor, and he was a couple of years younger than me in school. His grandfather, Irwin, Dr. Irwin, was the only doctor when the twins were born. They were born about a year before me, and in the wintertime. And on the birth certificates that I got from the state of Alabama, marked through, I have to use her name still, her birth certificate. They were marked through, both of them, his and Carl's, and then I have his death certificate, and nobody saw him. He was just murdered and taken out. He was in the well and buried. Nobody did anything about it. It's just that he's dead, and the date that they were given, and they went along with it. A lot of people knew about this. I could name you people there in Moulton. Well, they're dead now probably, but it's odd how people get angry that they committed the crimes, and they don't like it being told, and they'll go after you then. So if I'm babbling, I'm going to get off a little here, because this Jean, the first thing when Lina Dempsey had died, and she still had them, I mean, they had me on the run, not just her, is how she tried to have me killed, even on up until I was out at Hustler magazine and had some backing in that campaign from Larry Flint, and he published that endorsement in April of '84. Said I knew who was responsible for his shooting, and he furnished me a car for a year. And prior to that, I'd been almost killed and stuffed in the car, and I'd been almost killed before the 18.5-minute gap. In the Watergate tapes, I had worked for the district attorney after that happened, April Fool Day of '80, and stuffed in the car. I no longer had an apartment. I had gone to Laura Childers out in Abilene, because she said I could come out there and stay for a week or two and then see if they could help me get a job. And if I did, bring my sons out there, because so much was being done there. I had a letter from the FBI, and then that was dated June the 23rd of, well, no, that was a response to it, I guess, ongoing investigation, national security involved, because the FBI, I had 2 letters from them. And anyway, with all that, I've put all this up, so I'm not going to be redundant again. I wanted to get this up. It's up there as a form of telling the truth about what has happened. And know that I was up at Annie Carter's in Kentucky. She was the one older than Jean. Jean was the baby of the family. And as long as I had the car, and I had the letter, the endorsement in Hustler magazine, Annie Carter was all, well, can't say she's all sweet, but she knew when I told her certain things about remembering being brought there when I was kidnapped. There's dates that I could have no knowledge of unless they happened. So then she was kind of nice. Later, when the car went back and I was thrown right back on the side of the road again, couldn't get jobs, couldn't get an alimony that was due me to get me off the street. Street, highway, you name it, and what was happening to me. I went back to her place. She lived out in the country, and they had a farm and all that. And, she was trying to do the same thing that Lina Dempsey was. You have to know what they were doing. And let me say this, Lina Dempsey, mother of the twins, was with Senator John Sparkman, the old senator from Alabama for all those years, U.S. Senator. She was with him when he died, and I think he died in about '84 or something like that, I guess. And they were, ask yourself why they're buddies, why they even know each other. The hostage money was filtered through, and he knew every bit of it. Sparkman did. He was the senator for years and years till he died, right before he died. So the thing that I wanted to put up here is Jean would like me shut up. There's no way, there's so many things that I knew, could remember when Annie Carter, her sister, up in Kentucky, when she found out I knew all those and those dates. But I remember this. I remember Jean, the one I'm talking about that's still alive, coming in, they had taken her away, I assumed, to get her out while they killed Peggy, because Jean, I don't know how much older Jean was than me. She wasn't that much older, maybe about 5 years older than me, I guess. I would think so, 6. I remember her walking in and me being told by the old grandmother Dempsey there, is what they would, mother of Lina and Jean and Matthew, when she walked in. I remember her stand. I remember right where she was standing, and her looking back at me. Can't remember the words, but she was questioning who I was. There were others. I told one family that lived near there, and we had to walk, and I was little. I was made to walk because I didn't have cars or anything to get the mail. Anybody could remember it back then. We went into this one house on the right as you go out to the road in the mailbox back then. Walked up, and more than once this woman, the old grandmother, to the real Peggy and mother to Lina and Jean. Um, More than one time there were people who knew that I wasn't Peggy, that they were aghast that you would even try to pawn me off as the real Peggy. So I remember this one specifically. This is what uh, Annie Dempsey Carter, and she has a daughter whose husband was in the Baptist church, I believe, or Methodist, as he wasn't the minister, but something about he had a job next to the minister. They had every chance to tell the truth. They even went after me. The daughter did, trying to shut me up and calling back to Alabama rather than trying to help me. Every one of these people know the truth. By that, they have joined into a conspiracy. But Jean, as I know, is still alive. I'd like to ask why, rather than trying to have things done to me, that she has not gone down to the sheriff or informed the governors or informed Sessions or Selby, who's the U.S. senators from, well, Sessions is no longer. He was your, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say too much right here. Well, U.S. Attorney General. He was just dismissed. I thought maybe he would get some of this into court, but I don't know if he even tried really. But Selby, I think, is still in office, and he's not hasn't done one thing. When I have called the law enforcement in Moulton, they would tell me that the FBI were in charge of it in kidnapping. And at one point, I was told I can't get back to my home, to England. I mean, this has to go on to court. I can't get back there. I would have to I can't even get a passport. So this whole thing is utterly preposterous. And the fact that I'm even able to talk about it and be afraid. So I'm babbling a little bit because this woman, Jean, she's known all about it all her life. All of them did. They conspired in it to kill me more than once, to shut me up, especially when the book, they thought it might be published, and that would bring people finding out the truth. So after Lina died, I mean, she was the henchman trying to shut me up, and she was diagnosed as a psychopath. Well, what are the rest of these that were quiet? What is Jean? She wanted me to shut me up. Her son, has she got, I've forgotten, she's got two sons and two daughters, or one son and two daughters. Anyway, the one son's a minister up in, I don't know if he's in Tennessee or Kentucky. Not once have they ever tried to help. In fact, they've tried the same trick that Lina Dempsey did. When Jack Hartsfield saved my life in 1980, I'd already almost been killed April Fool Day. And then Lina Dempsey tried it again in herself to shut me up. So you know where I'm headed with this.